Republicans are looking for a real challenger to Mitt Romney since many conservatives think he's too moderate, and some consider him to be a slippery serial flip-flopper. A fair charge. But right now the GOP field is filled with leftovers. There doesn't seem to be a national figure that inspires the base. But here comes Rick Perry, the governor of Texas, riding in on a social conservative base. It looks like he's getting ready to jump into that fight. Perry's spending a lot of time this week crisscrossing the country, making headlines on the national stage. He flew here to Los Angeles on Sunday, speaking at a religious rally and attacking President Obama on abortion.
With the stroke of a pen, abortion essentially became a U.S. foreign export. I'm deeply disturbed at the prospect of experimentation that uses such tissue, turning the remains of unborn children into nothing more than raw material.
Well, that's going to play well with the base. And tomorrow night he heads to New York, where he's replacing Donald Trump as the top speaker at the big GOP dinner there. And Saturday, he's the star of the Republican Leadership Conference in New Orleans. Some Republicans think Perry could be just what they need. He's a Southern governor with solid popularity in his state and great credentials with the religious right. Of course, he's also led his state into a $27 billion budget deficit. He's talked about seceding from the Union, and perhaps worst of all, he's a former Democrat. Back in 1988, he was Al Gore's campaign manager for Texas. Oops. But that was many moons ago, before Perry decided it was better politics to move a billion miles to the political right. I think this guy could be the one that really gives Romney a ride for his money, though. So let's officially start the national conversation about Rick Perry. And to help me do that, I'm going to bring in Wayne Slater, senior political writer for the Dallas Morning News, and Josh Trevino from the conservative Texas Public Policy Foundation. Welcome both.
Thank
Josh,
you.
I'm going to start with you. I take it you're a fan of Perry. Is he the real deal in your mind? And if so, why?
Rick Perry is definitely the real deal. The moment he decides to enter the race, if he does, it is really a contest between him and Mitt Romney for the nomination. Rick Perry doesn't just bring social conservative credentials, as you said. He also brings strong fiscal conservative credentials as well. His job creation record in Texas has been unparalleled among the states and really is one of the few things that are propping up Obama's anemic job creation record right now. So Rick Perry is really, for my money, the strongest possible contender.
All right. You know, Josh, I disagree with the latter part of it, but I am doing information gathering here.
Well, we can talk numbers if you want. I mean, let's talk about Rick Perry's job creation. Over approximately, no, really, over half.
No, I'm being serious.
Over half. Oh, well, what numbers do you want? In the last 5 years.
I want to address. I want to have Wayne address that. Okay, Wayne, talk to me here, because you cover politics in Texas. No, I'm being serious. So, are the job numbers great for him? How's the budget look for him? How does he stand in that regard?
Well, look, Josh is right. The job numbers do look good. If you look at Texas, whether you want to give Perry credit or not, there's certain aspects about Texas tax structure, regulation. We don't pay very much for social programs. You're at the bottom on health care. We have more uninsured children than any other state. Those are elements that make the budget work, but also it's a right-to-work state that create a business-friendly environment. At the same time, Rick Perry is now presiding over a legislative session that will balance the budget by cuts alone. $15 billion in cuts from the current budget, a few smoke and mirrors, and basically going into the next biennium the way they have it now by not paying off some bills, leaving the next legislature with billions of dollars in bills. So it's an economic record that certainly would be applauded by Josh's group and other fiscal conservatives, but it's not one that always everybody in the state, especially if you're poor and disadvantaged, thinks is all that great.
Josh, first of all, is he getting in? I mean, we're talking about his merits here. It seems like he's making a lot of moves here. It looks like he's coming. Is he coming?
Well, that's not for me to say. It certainly does look like the signs are aligning in that direction. Whether he does or not, I suspect there's still some boxes to be checked. But what is certain is that if he does come, he's going to be one of the top contenders. There's no question about that.
Well, you know, let's talk about God's plan, because what these conservatives, Michelle Bachmann had said, they all seem to know what God's up to. Rick Perry is similar, but it's an interesting quote here. Let's show you that.
I think we're going through those difficult economic times for a purpose, and that to bring us back to those biblical principles of you don't spend all the money, not asking for Pharaoh to give everything to everybody and to take care of folks, because at the end of the day, it's slavery.
Wayne, that seems like a curious argument, that we are going through this economic times because of biblical reasons. Did God want us to go through the economic times? Does that, I mean, I don't know, does that sell in Texas, and does it sell across the country?
Yes, it sells in Texas. And more importantly, it sells among the constituency that's most important in Iowa, in South Carolina, and in Florida, in the early nominating states. Let me tell you, these Christian conservative voters and Tea Party voters, and there is an overlap. They're not the same people, but there is an overlap among those constituencies, are going to be crucial in this presidential race. You talk like that, good God talk, good religious talk, good, strong appeals to social and religious conservatives in those states and in Texas, and you do well.
All right, Josh, how about working for Al Gore? That's got to hurt him, doesn't it? And what happened to Rick Perry? How does a guy go from working for Al Gore to being this massive right-winger? And do you trust him in that transition?
Absolutely, no question about it. Look, you know, Texas, like many southern states, has a long tradition that is sadly dying out, of conservative Democrats. You know, Al Gore used to be one back in the day. It's hard to remember, but he was. Rick Perry was one as well, and then when the Democratic Party moved left nationally, Rick Perry was, like many Southern Democrats, because of his conservatism, was forced to become a Republican. I have absolute trust in him and his ideology. No question that that's not going to be an issue. And look, to get back to a point that Wayne made, it's true that the religious appeal does work in a lot of states.
I want to ask Wayne about that, you know, but he's, of course, got some downsides, too. One last clip to show you, to talk about his downsides. You know, he hinted at secession once. Let's show you that.
We got a great union. There's absolutely no reason to dissolve it. But if Washington continues to thumb their nose at the American people, you know, who knows what might come out of that.
So a guy who talked about secession, a guy, you know, who is, but has these social conservative credentials, etc. Do you think that Josh is right? Do you think he shoots up to number 2 in this field to challenge Romney, or is that overstating the case?
You know, I think Josh has a point. Look, there's no question that his appeal at the moment in the design of the Perry team, the Perry campaign as it is to appeal to social and religious conservatives. And so when he talks about secession, that is very popular with the Tea Party activists who are socially conservative. When he talks about states' rights, chants states' rights, a Southern governor chanting states' rights in a Southern state, it has appeal in this year.
You know what? I got to tell you guys, I think you guys are right. Look, I obviously disagree with a lot of his policies, and that's for a different segment, but I think he shoots up to number 2 as well if he gets in, and so I'd be shocked if he didn't. So it's an interesting development. We'll see how it goes. Wayne Slater's from the Dallas Morning News. Josh Trevino's from the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Thank you both tonight. We really appreciate it.
But there may be room for yet another conservative in the race. We're talking about the Texas governor, Rick Perry. He's now dropping fresh hints today that he might enter the race. He told the Texas Tribune, and I'm quoting now, people would like to have some other options. And then Perry added that while there may be a drop-dead time by which a candidate must declare, that time has not arrived yet. Perry's, by the way, in New York for a major speech. That's also where we find our national political correspondent, Jessica Yellen. Jessica, how close is he to formally announcing that he's a candidate for the Republican presidential nomination?
Well, Wolf, he's having a lot of fun teasing the press and political watchers with that news, that deadline. He told one of our producers when asked if he's going to run, he said, I might go running in Central Park. When he was just on Fox News a short time ago, he said he doesn't even think he has to decide within the month. Listen to this.
How'd it go?
Tonight, it was awesome.
You gonna run?
I may run in Central Park. I'm not sure that you have to make a decision in a month.
You could push it to win.
It's a pretty fast world out there we live in today. So, again, we're giving it the appropriate thought process, and I'd hate to be pointing to a time specific, even if we decide to get in.
So, reading the tea leaves, Wolf, he is in New York City. He is speaking tonight to the New York County Republicans at their Lincoln Day dinner. This is an event originally Donald Trump was going to speak at. That means it's a room of some pretty big heavy hitters, major donors, the kinds of people you might ask to write a very fat check if you were going to run for president. So it certainly couldn't hurt to butter these folks up if you're planning a run. Wolf.
A lot of major Republican leaders out there think he will. One of them told me the other day that he thought there was a 95% chance that he will run. But if he does run, who would he be appealing to in this already very crowded field?
You know, it's interesting. On first blush, you might think that he would appeal strictly to the Michelle Bachmann, sort of Rick Santorum social conservative voters, because he has such a strong track record on opposing abortion rights, opposing gay rights, those sorts of issues. So one could argue he would have a strong case to make against, say, President Obama if he were to get the nomination, selling an economic message, and assume that he could already get the social conservative vote because of his history there. But you have to weigh that against the fact, Wolf, that he is there are many in his state who don't like him that much. He rates below 50% approval in recent polling in his own state. So downsides and upsides to a Rick Perry candidacy.
If he does run, he's going to have to do a little better explaining of what he meant not that long ago when he suggested that Texas could secede from the union. We'll press him on that.
Now he wants to run it, maybe.
Yeah, all right. We'll see what happens.
Right.
Jessica, thanks very much.